large-scale and impressive video, I am happy to give the floor to Alexander Shokhin, head of the Russian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs. It is the leading association of Russian entrepreneurship. And I would like you to share with us your vision and perspective of digital business development, and what might be the outcomes of this large-scale introduction. Thank you very much. For me, it is a great honor to once again take part in the Verona Eurasian Economic Forum. I arrived today in the morning, and there the union I represent, together with the government of St. Petersburg, organizes a regular forum. It's called the Russian Industrialists, and we were speaking about the industrial leadership goals. And what we are discussing here today, it is a continuation of what was discussed in St. Petersburg. One of the key drivers of all the changes is the emerging new modern technologies that might affect the situation in global markets and society as well. So in the video, we heard a lot, but also there is machine learning and abstract thinking, AI, robotics, and automation, then virtual education programs, and virtual tourism. And for Russians, it is most relevant because not everybody from Russia can reach Verona, for example, now. And then preparation and development of various business solutions, virtual twins in production, then autonomous vehicles, transportation, low carbon energy, and urban traffic using renewables. One of the major challenges for the Russian economy is the reduction of transfer of foreign technologies and import substitution of technologies and technological independence. And this is what we develop when we use high-tech solutions in a number of industries. We have a whole series of the national projects under the umbrella term industrial leadership. And these national projects will be expanded, and a new one will be devoted to bioeconomy. And then the total number will be 12 national projects. In a regular survey we conduct, we see that the mainstream for increasing competitiveness is the use of high tech in production lines. And one of the ways of reaching technological independence is development of our own engineering centers and establishment of ties and links with the leading universities and state-of-the-art technologies. And also there are advanced engineering schools project. The IT market in Russia is over 3 trillion rubles, and about 80% of the Russian companies, they use locally produced software, and the remaining part is purchased from friendly countries. And also I should say that in a number of cases we still have to use software from non-friendly states. Among the leading advanced companies, there are members of the Union of Industrialist Entrepreneurs. There are dozens of them, and great attention is given to the utilization of AI in industry, in production and logistics. According to experts, AI will become a compulsory technological solution, and it will be used in about 70% of Russian companies.
And the majority of the companies in the Russian ecosystem, create the prerequisite for further cooperation between the marketplace, including the industrial partners and financial companies and banks. The financial sector is showing us that one of the most rapidly developing areas is specifically fintech, specifically digital and financial assets. In Russia, among the activities of the Russian Union of Entrepreneurs and Businessmen has established the proper legislative base that has been well tested. We've tested a number of tools and we shaped the market of digital financial assets. That has already achieved 1 trillion rubles. And more than 2,000 issues of digital financial assets have taken place. In the current environment of the fiscal and monetary policy of the central bank, for the business, digital assets are a real opportunity to raise financing. More than that, the digital financial assets and digital currencies are becoming an inseparable part of international settlements. Primarily, hybrid digital assets can be tied to both financial and real-world assets. For example, they can be tied to gold, can be backed by gold, or some other crypto assets. And later on, they can also be backed by most popular commodities like oil, grain, and others. So that would allow us to build a new, flexible, verified and trusted financial system backed by the actual value and protected by the blockchain technologies. And for that, we definitely need to ensure interoperability of our platforms, and we need to make necessary amendments to the legislation of our respective countries. Today, both in Russia and in the Eurasian Economic Union, we see active implementation of innovative solutions and business processes. And we are not just talking about commercial companies, but also state-owned enterprises which contributes to greater competitiveness and quality of services rendered to the population and business. Speaking of the Eurasian Economic Union, I wanted to say the following. Since this is a Eurasian Economic Forum, I wanted to cite several examples of integration of digital solutions for businesses and regulators. Already now we have a system of intrastate electronic data exchange in the customs area. The same applies to technical regulation, shared market of pharmaceutical products and medical products, both in terms of tariff and non-tariff regulations. It is also in further plans of the Eurasian Economic Union to implement the concept of digital union aimed at ensuring the principle of four freedoms: circulation of goods, capitals, services, and people. All of that will be facilitated digitally. Among others, right now we are conducting work to create a digital profile for labor migrants from different countries. We are launching cross-border mechanisms that are shaping space of trust and facilitate legally meaningful and binding paperwork in digital form. Unfortunately, up until recently, digital documents had to be supported by paper documents. Luckily, right now, we are stepping away from this practice. Digitalization, through acceleration of many processes, should lead to reduction of expenditures associated with doing business. And we are primarily talking about the reduction of those expenditures within Russia, Eurasian space, and many cross-border transactions. Also, Eurasian Economic Union is conducting specific work in many other areas, namely, while Russia's presidency in BRICS last year, we actively discussed the idea of creation of digital currency of BRICS member countries, called BRICS Bridge. That was the name of the project. It is not yet completed, but we do see that similar projects are being implemented by our partners, including People's Republic of China, as a substitution to traditional payment systems like SWIFT. We prefer using digital currencies issued by the central banks, and the speed of transactions was accelerated. Within 10 minutes, transactions can be facilitated, and digital UN platform of China was joined by the countries of the Gulf and Southeastern Asia, and we see that we are not just talking about digitalization of old tools and mechanisms in the financial area, but we are practically talking about creation of new digital platforms that can shape and change the image of cross-border financial and trading operations. To conclude, I wanted to highlight that today digital technologies are becoming a key driver of the global economy and contribute to successful development of our own competences in the area of digital innovations. And as experience shows, Russian companies are quite successful in that, and it's not just a response to external challenges, but it is also an inseparable element of our strategy to ensure global competitiveness and technological sovereignty of our national economy in 21st century. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Shokhin, for such a detailed presentation showing that the Russian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs is and stays the initiative coordinator of key initiatives in the area of digital economy, not just in Russia, but also in the space of the Eurasian Economic Union. And I wish you every success in that. Now, our second speaker is Madam Polina Davidova, who is Director of Digital Transport and Logistics Association. Since Madam Davidova is not responsible for all issues of transport and logistics so far, she has faced some of those problems personally, though. Nonetheless, she successfully made it to this forum, and I'm happy to give her the floor. Thank you very much. Well, luckily, the only problem I encountered was in the corridor, and it has not affected the global transportation system. Well, I am responsible specifically for digitalization of transport and logistics in Russia. So my presentation will be focused on the state of affairs with technological breakthroughs and technological development in Russian transportation. And I'd like to start by saying that just 10 years ago, transport and logistics were completely different. Just remember it, in order to buy a train ticket or a plane ticket, we would have to physically go to a cashier desk. And in order to get a taxi, you would have to raise a hand and catch one on the street. And in order to navigate the road while driving, we had to use paper maps, or sometimes we would have to ask for guidelines for the locals. Right now, all those processes are automated and digitalized thanks to mobile services and apps that make our lives so much more convenient, and our trips are going so much faster. We're long used to that. We're used to the fact that there are no individuals checking our tickets on the trains or buses. It is all substituted by digital technologies, biometric technologies, geolocation technologies are actively used. For example, Russian metro, by the end of this year, will be digitalized in a way that biometric technologies will be used. So you can use face recognition technologies to pay for a ticket to get access to Russian metro. In the nearest future, these technologies would be scaled to cover railway transport and air transport. This year, a whole number of experiments are being launched in Russia to pilot those technologies to board a plane or train through Face ID without presenting any paper document. Another promising way to make payment is using geolocation. Those are cash-free, contactless technologies. The way it works is that we compare the data on the location of a vehicle and a smartphone of a passenger. And once the system fix that they coincide, the fee for a trip is charged automatically. That's really smart and convenient. A few words on digitalization of subsidies. In order to validate the fact that you are entitled to subsidies, you need to come personally to a cashier desk and to present the document proving it, and you get your free ticket. Right now we have a web portal for transportation where you can get your subsidized air ticket online, and this is an option used by more than 5 million passengers in our country this year. Next big step in transportation digitalization is digitalization of taxi services. I'm sure it's a very promising area for many countries. A lot is being done there. Starting from September the 1st, 2023, there is a single federal system of GIS for taxis. And in a few years, we've updated the regulation in this area. For many years, nothing was changing in their legislation, but lately, thanks to the operation of this federal law and this system, we have most of the taxi market players properly registered, more than 1 million vehicles, more than 1,500 call centers for taxi services, and this year we see that there is a 40% increase of the number of registrations in this system. Well, I am happy to say that Yandex Taxi is a global player, available not just in Russia, but also in many friendly countries. So we offer digital taxi apps in other countries. Now, wrapping up the part on digitalization of passenger transportation, I would say that the ambitious goal we have right now is to create a single ecosystem for all passengers in Russia, no matter whether you're in the capital or in the most remote location of Russia. You should be able to plan your trip online in any app. It would be seamless technologies where you would be able to buy a ticket, order a taxi, all in one app. We're doing everything possible to make sure that our passengers feel at home at any part of the country, no matter where they are. Now, moving over to freight logistics. The key goal we have this year is to launch National Digital Transportation and Logistics Platform. This is a very big step because the main goal for us is to carry freight faster, to make the whole process more transparent, and to ensure seamless logistics available for all key partners. We want to carry cargoes faster and facilitate trade. In order to make it a reality, we need to merge into one a number of different agencies and businesses and systems that are operational already, including our key players, Russian Railways, Rosatom Corporation, that already have their own systems. So it is important to integrate them all into one so that indeed we can use them as one platform. As soon as that becomes a reality, that would provide for rapid reduction of paper flow that Mr. Shokhin was commenting on before, and that will become an actual opportunity for businesses to effectively compete in terms of time for delivery of cargo with such a giant players like the Suez Canal. We found the root cause of the problem, and this is paperwork chaos. We've tested 11 routes under the pilot project. We engaged key players of the market, biggest enterprises, doing multi-modular logistics both for import and export operations. And we realized that in order to carry cargo, it takes 117 papers for import and 157 papers for export. And all those documents by far are not all digital, so agencies exchange some of those documents and businesses on paper. And we've made an important step in this regard. Next year in our country, we will make it mandatory to have electronic paperwork on transport. That will be called State Informational System of Electronic Consignment Notes and Wage Bills. We already have about 25 million documents registered in this system already. Starting from September next year, it will become mandatory for transportation by road, rail, and air. And we expect that then we will be able to say that it's all digitalized in terms of logistics and transportation in Russia. And one more exciting technology that I have to tell you about, and it has to do a lot with international trade and logistics. This is electronic navigation seals. It allows you to track cargo in a real-time mode to make sure that the cargo is well protected and secured from counterfeit, from illegal opening of the cargo. And just to name a few numbers, in half a year, in 2025, the navigation seals allowed us to reduce the illegal transportation of tobacco by 13%. And starting from next year onwards, this technology will become mandatory for transportation of cargo via the territory of Eurasian Economic Union. Obviously, nothing is possible today without AI technologies, and this is a priority for us in transportation. The readiness to implement those technologies is very high. 45% of Russian transportation and logistics companies have plans to introduce AI in the next 2 to 3 years. Particular role in implementation of AI goes to unmanned technologies. It may sound like those are technologies of the future, but in fact, this is a reality of today that is opening up new horizons to both freight and passenger transportation. First of all, it's all about economic drivers. Logistics and transportation account for 13% contribution to GDP. Transport is ranked at top 5 branches of the economy in Russia, and particularly in a situation of platform economy, the role of logistics is particularly important. Businesses are willing to reduce transactional expenditures, and that includes, among others, delivery costs. So unmanned trucks can operate 24/7 and spend fuel in the most efficient manner, stick to the timeline, and most importantly, reduce dependency from the human factor and human error. I'm talking about car accidents when a driver may be too slow to react to the road changes, and digital logistics is very important in this regard. Secondly, the geography of Russia is setting its own requirement. We have a vast country. Some of the territories are very remote and hard to reach, and traditional transportation means are not always effective. Therefore, deliveries to remote locations using drones is sometimes the only alternative in terms of time, price, and reliability. And the third factor is security. We need to eliminate the factor of human error in a number of scenarios. And I also would like to say that today in Russia, unmanned technologies is not a hype, it's not a buzzword, it's an actual instrument that is a reaction to demands of businesses to expand the efficiency, availability of services, reduce risks. Today in Russia, we have unmanned trucks, unmanned taxis, unmanned tram, unmanned train, unmanned rovers doing delivery, unmanned ferries, and some of them carry passengers, some of them carry cargo. We developed that, and the projection of the Ministry of Transport is that by 2050, every second vehicle on the road will be unmanned drivers. Now, speaking of drones and AUVs, just 3 years ago in Russia, we've opened unmanned logistic corridor between Moscow and St. Petersburg, and there are 19 unmanned trucks operating on this route. Just to compare, 3 years ago, when we launched it, there were only 3 trucks on the route. Right now, we have 90. So we are developing fast. And most importantly, logistics experts are working on that with us. It's not technology for the sake of technology. Indeed, today we transport freight in an unmanned road through the main road between Moscow and St. Petersburg. This year, the central ring road around Moscow was also made available for driverless vehicles, and starting from next year, that will also cover the route between Moscow and Kazan. To name a few examples, just lately we tested unmanned truck that covered the route from Moscow, St. Petersburg to Kazan, covering M11 and M12, covering this road in 24 hours. The regular flight by truck would be 58 hours, because for a driver there is a necessity to stop over for sleep and rest. And large logistics companies expect that broad implementation of driverless technologies could double the mileage of the fleet and reduce associated expenditures by 30%. Our main goal, and I'm coming to the end of my speech, We see that efficiency is only possible when we are truly capable of eliminating human factor and take the driver away from the vehicle, not just let them step away from the driving wheel, because in some cases the driver is seated at the passenger seat just monitoring the situation. When we're able to do it without a driver, unmanned deliveries will become truly effective. Our plan is to make sure that in 2027 we launch the first driverless truck route, and by testing this technology we will be able to scale it further and further. I've been thinking what would be the best way to wrap up this presentation. What is it that we can tell you that is impressive? I wanted to show you 3D videos. We have quite a number of them. They're all very pretty, and this is all about our idea to create multimodal delivery. Sometime we'll have unmanned ferry moving over to an unmanned truck, and then the truck will take it to a warehouse, and from there another unmanned vehicle will take it directly to the shop, and there the rover or a small drone would deliver it to your apartment. I guess that will become a reality very soon, but in the meantime I would like to show you a video that we prepared just 3 weeks ago in Moscow. It has to be a really short video, otherwise we will be late. How long is your video? Just 1 minute. Okay, let's watch the video then.
Hi, I'm Karina. They say that unmanned transport is so widely used in the capital, and they speak a lot about it on every TV channel. Let's check it out. Is it true or not? How are you? Everything is fine? Do you know that this is a pilotless vehicle? Sorry, and the train. Oh, sorry. AI is driving us. Do you use it often? Okay, this train is pilotless. Do you know about it? No. So this is a tramway without any driver, but it is written on the side. Are you aware of that? Oh no, sorry, I don't know. Is it your first time on this unmanned vehicle? Yeah. I believe all this has been trialed and tested. Do you know that this is an unmanned tramway? Oh, this is my second fuck up. Okay, let's share the responsibility. Okay, the Ministry of Transport said that very soon all urban traffic will be unmanned. I want my children to be autonomous. I want them to make food for themselves and to wash their clothes and so on. My 5-year-old is not autonomous at all. They say that in the district of Strogino there is a pilotless vehicle. Yeah, okay, this thing, it has a special sonar device. Okay, it sees the whole environment around it. Aren't you afraid that there's no human soul there? No, I believe that you should be scared by the people more. All right, let's check this heavy truck out. It is an unmanned one. Okay, I believe we will reach our destination. Hello, I'm Karina. Hi, but I'm not a driver. And who are you? I'm just an assistant, okay? I'm accompanying this vehicle. Aren't you worried that drivers may disappear and this profession won't exist? Oh, no, we will just spend more time in front of the monitor looking at the screens. What about the future? Well, electronic equipment will be safer than humans. I believe I can accompany this truck myself, and you can step out. Okay? Bye, everyone. Right, this has been a great day. Definitely, the technology rules. And do you have another video as well? Do you have another video? Are you going? Oh, that's it? Great. We are pressed for time. I'm in shock. I'm in awe. Colleagues, right, let's thank Polina for this impressive illustration of everything she has been telling us about. And it seems that she has convinced me that the future transport will be unmanned. Yeah, we need the seamless logistics first. And I believe that the Eurasian continent will be well connected, all the countries of this region and Europe as well. And this will help us, and we will eliminate all the barriers. And if it could help us to eliminate the barriers between our countries, then a Nobel Prize can be awarded for this. Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, we have had 2 presentations of heads of business associations from Russia. And now I suggest Michele De Gasperis, a co-chair of the Eurasian Trade Chamber and also the president of the Institute, the Belt and Road. The floor is yours.
Grazie Chair. In qualche modo il mio intervento continua a quello dello speaker precedente, è molto interessante perché se l'intelligenza artificiale ha trasformato il modo in cui pensiamo, e sarà proprio la robotica che trasformerà il modo in cui viviamo e lavoriamo, così come abbiamo visto anche nel video. E quindi non è una tecnologia del futuro, abbiamo visto che è già qui, sta entrando nelle fabbriche, negli ospedali, nelle nostre case e ridisegnerà la società globale, come fecero a suo tempo la macchina a vapore oppure internet. È un ecosistema, leggo secondo Morgan Stanley, che vale 60 trilioni di dollari e il 73% delle imprese che sviluppano robot umanoidi, ad esempio, è in Asia. Un dato che segna inequivocabilmente lo spostamento del baricentro tecnologico mondiale. Quindi oggi siamo di fronte a una nuova fase della storia umana. Robot e intelligenza artificiale si stanno fondendo, diventando una sola grande infrastruttura, una rete di macchine capaci di vedere, di decidere, di agire. Questa è l'embodied AI che vedevamo nel video di presentazione, l'intelligenza incarnata, dove il software lascia il mondo dei dati e incontra la materia. Le macchine non solo calcolano, ma percepiscono, apprendono, agiscono, e questa è una fusione che cambierà davvero l'economia mondiale. Pensate che negli ultimi 12 mesi sono stati installati nel mondo oltre 500.000 di robot industriali e 3 su 4 di questi sono in Asia, cioè dove si è capito che la robotica non è più un costo, ma è una condizione per restare competitivi. Come diceva sempre lo speaker precedente, entro il 2030 fino a 1/3 delle ore lavoro svolte da esseri umani potrà essere appunto automatizzato. Però, sempre come vedevamo, non è la fine del lavoro, ma è l'inizio di un nuovo modo di lavorare, perché ogni rivoluzione tecnologica non ha mutato il lavoro, sì, ma non il bisogno umano di lavorare. Ha imposto di cambiare competenze, di cambiare mentalità. Quindi bisogna cooperare con la tecnologia, non competere con la tecnologia. E chi saprà governare la robotica e l'intelligenza artificiale avrà più produttività e più dignità nel lavoro. Perché la vera sfida non è lavorare di meno, ma lavorare meglio utilizzando le macchine. Quindi il nuovo confine non è più tra alfabetizzati e analfabeti, ma tra chi coopera con una macchina e chi ne resta escluso, cioè tra chi sa usare la tecnologia e chi ne sarà usato. Quindi dove c'è cultura e visione nascerà lo sviluppo, dove mancheranno si creeranno delle disuguaglianze, delle nuove forme di dipendenza. Per questo la sfida, a mio modo di vedere, non è solo economica, ma è una sfida culturale, una sfida politica. Bisogna governare, formare e condividere le regole. Dobbiamo costruire un umanesimo tecnologico in cui l'uomo resti al centro del processo produttivo, non ai margini. Nei prossimi 10 anni la governance della robotica avrà un impatto più profondo di quello dell'intelligenza artificiale stessa. E la governance non è burocrazia, la governance è fiducia, è sicurezza, è responsabilità. Quindi serve una cornice di standard, di etica, di valori condivisi. È il momento di costruire piattaforme comuni, non solo tavoli di discussione, piattaforme dove il progresso diventa un processo inclusivo, estensivo, condiviso, non selettivo. Le grandi potenze tecnologiche stanno già definendo le policy delle AI che governerà la robotica. E questo è il punto, le AI che governerà la robotica. Non possiamo permettere che le potenze tecnologiche governino le nostre vite, muovendo i robot con le AI definite solamente da loro. Il Mary Mikhail report del
Many
2025 mostra come
reports show that technological leadership will determine the geopolitical leadership, but Eurasia,
oltre la metà della popolazione,
representing more than half of the world population and production, cannot just receive the rules. It needs to be at the table where they are written, because not always what is technically possible, it's also socially acceptable. I'm convinced that technologies should be a meeting point, not an area for competition. Eurasia is one single continent. Let me repeat this. And Eurasia has two complementary souls. The Asian part is oriented to digital and technological growth, and the European soul has to do with social responsibility. This challenge, in our opinion, that's the great opportunity we have. Joining forces between Europe and Asia, creating a coalition between progress and sustainability, rules and progress. And I say that it would be nice to maybe these days in this city we might go home with the creation of a truly alive laboratory where technology becomes progress, but not only that, it becomes dignity, it becomes human development that is shared. We need clear rules to do that. The innovators must be inclusive. Every robot that replaces a job will have to create a more qualified job, and every algorithm making decisions should be understood and, if needed, corrected. Every example of progress should leave the world more human. And let me close. Robotics and AI are not just the future, they are the present. That is building our future. The economy will change, politics will change, education will change, but most importantly, our idea of dignity will change. So we cannot stop progress, but we can direct it in the direction we want. And that direction stems from our ability to stay a community, even in the robot era. Let us remember that technology is powerful only if it serves humans, not if it replaces them, because the most powerful machines will not replace us. The most powerful ones will be the ones that will make us more human. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michele. And I would like to highlight your idea of the creation of the common regulatory space in Eurasia. When I was the advisor of the Roundtable of Industrialists of Russia and the European Union, I proposed creation of such a space, and Alexander Shokhin, he also took an active part in it, and progress was reached. But unfortunately, in the current geopolitical crisis, all this has been nulled, and we see that there is demand for such a common regulatory space, and I'm absolutely sure that we'll get back to it as soon as it becomes possible. Colleagues, I see that you are looking at your watches, but I would like to remind you that we were a bit late when we started this session, and we have 90 minutes for lunch, and somebody is having lunch already, I hope nobody will be insulted if I say that all the speakers will have enough time to present. And now I'm giving the floor to Mikhail Popov, who is also a representative of the Russian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs, and he is also president of one of the biggest metallurgy companies, and he is from the real sector of economy. Please give us your vision. Thank you very much. And this session is devoted to modern technologies and breakthroughs, and it is different from all other sessions that we remain seated. Yeah, we don't stand at the podium. So this is a breakthrough, I believe. Yeah, we are doing it differently. And my second comment is that I'm going to speak not about today and tomorrow, but I'll be speaking about the day after tomorrow. We conduct regular surveys among leading Russian companies, and we ask questions, what about their planning horizons? Not 2030, but 2050 or 2060, what will be crucial for their business? What about their fears? Is it AI or some new technologies that will emerge by then? And I can tell you the following. At the end of the Second World War, the Soviet Union was the leading military power, and all other enemies and even friendly states couldn't have the same amount of troops and military equipment and arms. And that was like that till the 6th of August in 1945, because after those atomic bombs attack, it demonstrated the breakthrough for the coming years, and only due to the fact that during those harsh times of the Second World War, the country was thinking about the future, about the day after tomorrow. That enabled us to keep that parity. My second consideration, and this is what our companies talk about, Russian business is now like in a competition among the turtle and an Achilles. So we try to catch up, and we have to keep to the technologies that our Western partners talk about, but we need to think about the day after tomorrow, so where we could occupy leading positions. And the survey I referred to indicates that if we simplify or take a simplistic view on the business of leading companies, so they all refer to production, and all modern technologies should aim at reduction of costs, the cost-saving goal today and tomorrow. And the second part is the market, and there technologies should enable increase of the profit and revenues. And this is defined by three pillars. So we may refer to the energy and power, and materials, new materials, materials of the future. This is crucial for production. And for the market, human habits are of crucial importance, and also ethical norms that might affect the market, so they can manipulate the demand and also the mass mentality and so on. So the technologies of tomorrow, these are technologies that will help us improve the production and working in the markets. And the technologies of the day after tomorrow, these are new power technologies with the use of some other physical processes, ideally getting energy from air. And this, unlike wind energy, will help our steelworks functioning. Then new materials that will change production, and cost saving will be enormous. These are materials with changeable attributes and physical conditions. I'm speaking about resilience and some other qualities, some friction resistance and so on. And also, if we talk about the market, here AI may ensure these breakthroughs. It is manipulation of human habits and mentality. And to be honest, there's no artificial intelligence at all. And it's a fun thing to learn that recently some American scientists said, oh, AI should follow Christian values. You see, then we can continue with Muslim values and then LGBT plus values and so on. Our companies are interested not only in AI algorithms development, but also we need to have AI that will ensure our leading positions in the future. As for fears and threats, our companies see, and actually these are not just some ideas or conceptual things, these are proposals they send to governing bodies and so on. They say that a transformation of their own business should coincide with other companies' transformation within the technological cycle. If a company develops some new product and if it should be transported from A to B, then it is of course, preferably to have some additional value, right, on the production side. Then it should be transported, and ideally without any wastes, it should be consumed. And if there is waste, then we need to understand how it will be utilized or recycled. And secondly, it is education and training. So usually we are too late to train the appropriate specialists. So we now train engineers who can support the current state of development of our business. We are not preparing soldiers for the future. We do not understand what will be demands of our business. What will it be? Maybe unmanned vehicles technologies, or maybe endless life, or an absolute healthy state of the population. So we need to understand what demands we might have in the sphere of specialist training.
And AI might help us here in shaping our expectations of the talent pool, the consumption model. People change, generations change. We have Gen Z, we have Alpha. We do not know what the next generation will be, what kind of habits these people will have. Number three, that is inability of regulators to be there for the businesses of the future. Many of you remember that Bundeswan was the person who invented the skating style in skiing, free skiing, and it never existed before as a style. He invented it and managed to ski faster than anyone else. So that's how the whole means of sport emerged. The same should happen here. Number four are social matters. Factories working without people, vehicles driving without drivers would result in serious reallocation of workforce. Maybe unmanned factories would be joined by unmanned cities, and we have to do something about it. The more so that big businesses are socially responsible, and by shaping the living environment and habitat for our employees, we need to know what is going to happen with them tomorrow. Today, we need to start thinking about retraining and vocational training for employees, changing the priorities for those individuals, and that's the fourth big block of concerns, or rather business needs that we are trying to shape and address today at our union in various expert panels that we have. So we're talking about the future of tomorrow. And just another brief remark. Yesterday we talked a lot about the deficit of energy resources and carriers, deficit of storage capacities and materials, and so on and so forth. Well, I wanted to draw your attention to the following. This is something we've been discussing with our colleagues. What is the largest resource of storage that we have at our data facilities? What is the biggest type of data stored? Those are reels, memes, and photos of young girls on the beaches. So, like 50% of internet traffic is taken by pornography and pornography website and downloading and uploading of pornography content. We have to recognize it. And the deficit, the food deficit, and by the way, we've heard that Turkish hotels are stepping away from all-inclusive programs to a la carte serving. And we see that about 50 to 60% of food available on the market is going directly into the waste bin. This is yet another aspect that we need to think through whenever we grow or develop business or think about the business of tomorrow. Those are changes happening to the human mindset in case of responsible consumption. It's not just responsible manufacturing and socially responsible businesses, but it is also about responsible consumption and conscious consumption. Then we would live in a better world tomorrow. And I guess this is where we can think of pooling of our efforts with the partners, despite various potential political views or economic views. This is the life that we are to live together in the future. And I guess this is exactly the driving center that can bring us together. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Popov. Thank you for a deep perspective that you shared with us. And it's great that you commented on the points of shared interest and overlapping issues recognized by our European colleagues. And Michele De Gasperis also emphasized the importance of social and economic integration and common approaches to what is allowed and what is not allowed. And if we touched on the matter of regulation twice before, I guess it would only be logical if now I give the floor to Alexander Dyomin, Secretary of State and Deputy Director at the Russian Federal Service for Ecological, Technological and Nuclear Supervision of the Russian Federation. Mr. Dyomin, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I would like to say that my presentation may be a kind of sidestep from the general conversation, but nonetheless it's all about implementation of technologies and AI. It looks like they've changed everything, starting from our daily lives all the way to world markets and business models. Being representative of a supervising body responsible for technological, energy and nuclear supervision, I'd like to say a few words on implementation of new digital technologies in supervision. Lately, a lot was done in order to make supervision, state supervision, smarter. From some kind of blanket checks and audits, we're moving over to targeted specific checks in order to reduce the administrative burden on businesses without any compromises to security. We do not want to interfere with the operation of the businesses, but nonetheless we need to quickly react to any cases of violations and act preventively should there be any risk of emergencies. For that, we've introduced risk indicators, and having an understanding of the scale of operations, I will name just a few numbers. Our authority is supervising more than 190,000 of hazardous production facilities, 20,000 hydroseismic facilities, more than 6 million of energy facilities, plus a whole number of nuclear facilities that I'm going to talk about separately. So, how can we detect those signals, those red flags that would help us understand that this is what we need to scrutinize. That's why we developed risk indicators. This is a set of circumstances that by default do not define a violation, but there is a high probability that they may indicate a potential violation. They are regulated, and availability of those red flags would mean that we can come with audit. Right now we have 55 criteria, but this number is gradually growing. And since we have so many entities and facilities to supervise, and we therefore use machine processing and analysis of data and statistics we gather from those facilities. And this is what triggers those indicators. So right now we are actively implementing machine learning and machine processing of data, and I expect that in the nearest future we will be able to do that systemically. Obviously, we do not want to turn it into white noise. We want to make it properly balanced, and we do not want to come up with too many red flags or worrying signals that we can't cover with our audits. Now, just a few words to add on that. We are working to implement AI in processing data we collect from the entities we supervise. Those are declaration of industrial security and safety. Those are various certificates. Those are long documents. I'm sure colleagues know what I'm talking about. Those are outcomes of the diagnostics conducted by the enterprise, confirming the safe operations of the facility, and information of manufacturing control that the entities reporting to us submit. Again, taking into account the scale, this is a lot of information. Over the last few years, we have piloted the remote monitoring and supervision system. The entities we supervise are mostly large entities that have fairly advanced system of technological processes management, and they embed additional informational products in that, and that allows them to use all the information available there and integrate those aggregated indicators, convey them to our system that allows us to assess the safety and security level on those facilities. Obviously, this is huge data sets, and in order to most adequately detect the actual situation, AI is vital. Now, mobile inspector. This is another pilot project. Some of the supervising agencies in Russia have made more progress in this regard since their scale is smaller. But we're basically saying that our supervisors use the app installed on their smartphones, and in a remote mode, they can demonstrate any kind of facilities to confirm that they are complying with security and safety regulations. Obviously, taking into account the scale of facilities and the amount of mandatory requirements that we have in industrial safety, there are more than 23,000 of them. Right now, we're using this tool very cautiously, mostly as a preventive measure, but later on, I believe we can incorporate it in our investigation of compliance of the entities with the regulations we issue to fix the violations, and that can be good proof to broadcast the fact that violation was fixed, and they just do that through their smartphones. The more so that the geography of our country is so large, and we therefore need to actively develop remote examination mechanisms. Now, as for nuclear supervision, this is something that we pay particular attention to. I'm sure there is no need to explain why, and this is a multifaceted analysis of safety standards at nuclear facilities. So we check potential compliance, use of specialized products and software, all the necessary calculation and detection of any factors impacting safety. We develop the computation methods to do independent analysis of the security and safety levels. Those models are used whenever we need to provide confirmation of safe operation of nuclear facilities, monitoring of failure resilient systems, and we plan to use those computation and evaluation models whenever we are analyzing new systems of nuclear fusion and hydrogen facilities, as well as assessment of nuclear safety. I'm not going to bore you with the technical details. I would just summarize and say that the entities we supervise pay particular attention to implementation of new digital technologies in safety matters. This is predictive analytics. Well, I'm sure everyone is using this system now, but those facilities are getting broader, more advanced, and AI is being actively incorporated them, and that allows us to detect any potential prerequisites and risks that may lead to emergencies at a very early stage and therefore can be prevented. Expansion of automation is happening not just through technological processes, but also by means of technological control. We use computer vision that allows us to have thorough control over compliance in our facilities, whether all the personnel on the facility are wearing uniform and individual protection means and do not access prohibited areas that are dangerous for individuals to be. Digital twins are actively evolving, and they allow us to use data collected from the physical facility to predict its further operation and maintenance, to model any kind of emergencies, to simulate them and prevent them in the future. And we also actively implement robotized technologies. And in conclusion, I don't want you to feel as if I got confused about the topic of the session, since we're talking about economic development in this session, and I keep talking about supervision, safety and security. Well, in fact, this is an inseparable part of one and the same process, because economic development is not just numbers and charts on the screen. Economic development is primarily about technological development. It's about development of the industry, energy, transportation, everything that we discuss at this forum. And this development is supposed to go hand in hand with the pace of development in safety and security measures, primarily technogenic safety and security, because rapid pace of development may lead us to disasters, and unfortunately there are examples of the kind that we have in our history. So it's good that both supervising bodies and businesses working hand in hand, understand the importance of the matter and act accordingly. More than that, it's quite obvious that the risks associated with operation of hazardous facilities, particularly in nuclear industry, are cross-border in their nature. And therefore, it is crucial to facilitate intergovernmental cooperation and implementation of best practices and technologies, knowledge transfer, harmonization of regulation, and luckily, even despite all the geopolitical difficulties and tensions, this dialogue continues. And Verona Eurasian Economic Forum is one of the examples of successful platforms contributing to this successful dialogue. So I'd like to make use of this opportunity to thank all the organizers and personally Professor Antonio Falica for excellent organization. It is clearly felt that you dedicate a lot of your heart and soul to this work. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Dyomin, for your presentation. It is definitely very well aligned with the topic of this forum and serves as an important element of this paradigm. Digital technologies create new businesses and also create new risks. And in order to offset risks and opportunities, we need efficient regulation that is unthinkable without digital technologies. And since in your speech you touched on the matters of risks associated with nuclear energy and nuclear waste, I guess it would be good to take a look at this matter from a slightly different perspective, not through the risks, but through opportunities. And it is my pleasure to give the floor to Roberto Forgia, who is the CEO of Beforpharma company, that is one of the European and world leaders in the area of radium medicine. Roberto, the floor is yours.
Buongiorno a tutti e grazie per l'invito.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Sergey, for the introduction. We focus on radiopharmaceuticals for cancer patients. So the patient is the very focus of our activity. And I should have here... Yes, the remote control for slides.
Non c'è il...
As I was saying, we focus on radioactivity used in oncology. And we use radioactivity for two objectives, both for the diagnosis and for the treatment. In recent years, cancer treatment has become very important at an international level because it necessarily requires a cooperation between different countries. I personally have collaborated with Rosatom since 2015. I am an expert of regulators in the pharmaceutical world, and today I would like to describe the use of advanced technologies and AI in what we're already doing on some of the production lines. For example, we are replacing human eyes with artificial eyes to assess certain quality aspects of the drug, so using robots in production or some aspects of production, and therefore our competitiveness is increasing. But also considering international tensions that have also influenced us. This process that aims at producing drugs and doing research to help patients, this process has been halted, unfortunately. Today we've also heard talks about economics and finance, payments that are delayed and that therefore limit the spreading of certain technologies. So when I was invited to participate in this event, I asked myself, I wondered, is it useful to describe the technological advancements in my field, or is it better to focus on certain topics that our speakers have already touched upon, Michele, for example, so the ethics of what we're doing? So I asked myself the following question: what has been happening in recent years, moving from globalization that opened up borders and that created cooperation, all the way to a brilliant idea that I learned in 2018, 19, 20, when I worked with Rosatom. There we focused on the 2030 agenda by the UN, which was signed by all members of the UN, mentioning cooperation at all levels with the aim of achieving progress for all humans at all levels. And so, does technology define the speed of progress? Well, if so, ethics should define the direction we're heading into. So I made a search. I tried to understand what is the situation. So the agenda was launched in 2015. It should end in 2030. And what I've discovered is that about 50% of the Sustainable Development Goals are making very slow progress. Some are only at 20%, or even they're stopping or really going backwards. And there's a partnership for goals. It's an international cooperation body. And unfortunately, it's not achieving its goals. And I think this is an important aspect. This happens also when technology belongs to someone who can just stop your production by clicking a button. And this is a problem with AI as well. So now we are at a paradox. On the one hand, we have technology. On the other hand, we have the issue of access. Who can access this technology? How many can access all over the world? So, as it appears, access to technology is still a privilege. For example, according to some surveys, about 16% of the global population owns 75% of all patents, which is fundamental for institutions and politicians who need to manage and create rules. Yesterday I heard that some old contracts have no longer any value from an international point of view. And so, if I am a company and I work in this direction using all these technologies, will I be impacted? If there are no rules, no contracts that can ensure my future? Another aspect, considering that we are a pharmaceutical company, we focus on human health, I asked myself how important is ethics in terms of economic resources and their impact on the use of my technology. Not just in Italian terms or European terms or Eurasian terms, but at a global level. So I found that 70% of global health spending, global health spending, it focuses on 17% of the population, and this should make us think and make pharmaceutical companies think that have a mission that is not just about business. And going even deeper in the data analysis, I studied how pharmaceutical companies use their profits at a global level, and I realized that the only data I found is that the first pharmaceutical companies made a profit of about $110 billion after R&D costs. So this is not about sustainability of a pharmaceutical company. This is about the use of profits impacting on human health. And so I realized that the current per capita expenditure is about $45 per year at a global level. And if we were to use these profits and reinvesting them in health services, which makes sense in my opinion, because we focus on the patient, of course, reinvesting these profits, we could ambitiously aim at doubling the investment, which would result in a reduction in the number of deaths every year due to lack of means to access treatment, for health treatments. Very long time ago, when I went to interview with the Director General of the first company I worked for, there was an image that was enlightening. In 1950, George Merck said that pharmaceutical companies need to focus on patients, not profits. Profits will follow after the patient care. And there has been an inversion in this. And in this technological era, very, very few people hold progress in their hands, and this has an impact on the health of everyone. And this is a fundamental aspect. To close, I would like to mention the very introduction to this session. So, what is the impact? I believe it's fundamental to talk about the rules of the game, so to speak. It's not the rule of the game of just one country, but we're talking about cooperation in this 2030 agenda that seems to have been forgotten. The forum offers us a very precious opportunity to enrich dialogue and cooperation. That's why, in the case of my company, we keep collaborating despite all the difficulties and all the obstacles. We keep collaborating with Russia in particular, but the whole Eurasian system. Of course, Italy does not have nuclear reactors, and the 2030 agenda focuses on collaboration and cooperation for sustainable development. And I really hope that all these talks will become reality one day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roberto, for this unique synthesis of arguments related to business and ethics. I believe this is a very good example how each of the industries where there are specific market conditions and requirements and technological specifics, we can identify this synthesis and we can implement it at the level of each individual company and at the level of international cooperation. Having said that, I'm happy to give the floor to Sergey Tereschenkov, who is representing another important industry of high-tech development. This is artificial intelligence and digital sphere as we view it, and I know that Sergey has implemented a number of technologies. Okay, let's have a look. Thank you very much. I would like to present a very brief presentation. Okay, technologies change absolutely everything, and how to become a driver of changes and not a hostage of changes. I am a technological entrepreneur, and three of them are world leaders in several niches. It is IT, VR, and AR, and the third one, it is equipment production for Lazertag game equipment. It all started 15 years ago, and I was doing my diploma thesis, so I have taken all this journey from startup to becoming a leading company in a specific industry. My company exports into 97 countries of the world, and this is an enormous achievement. It is our achievement of my team. It is a limited liability company, Lazertag. And I would like to share some key points with you. How to become competitive, and not just competitive in the world in the sphere of innovative technologies, but how to remain a leader in a specific niche. every time we develop some new technology, some new innovation, we immediately join the market and we present it 1 year before an industrially produced product appears. So as soon as my R&D department develops a product in digital form, immediately we present it, we talk about it with future customers. So we develop the demand before actually the product is in the market. And our competitors, when this product hits the market, they have to catch up with us. So this helps us to be a leader. One company has been a leader for 3 years, another for 7 years. Another key point, it is about AI. And these technologies, they change practically all business processes in small businesses. I represent medium-sized companies, and it took us 2 years to introduce AI tools, and now it is used by our staff on a daily basis. And you know that the whole world is facing a new inflation wave, and it covers the developed countries and the emerging economies. What about a small and medium-sized business? You have to grow, you have to increase your market share and your income. And when we became a monopoly, we cannot increase sales. We cannot work with profitability because we cannot reach any more savings. We are already automated, we use advanced technology. What else can we consider to remain competitive? We can only improve productivity efficiency, not with fewer people, but this can be done via using robotics and AI utilization. And in 2 years, we have a 70% productivity improvement. And this year, it is even 40% more because we have introduced AI into all the processes. And it is not just automation of some routine tasks. No, it is about creative tasks as well. So AI assistants take part in our strategic sessions. We use AI when we develop prototypes and MVPs and so on. So it is participation of AI in design, making music, writing texts, and so on. So we respond to the inflation wave I mentioned and the profitability of any business. This is what happens all over the world, but it helps us to deal with it. And automation and AI introduction, this is the key to that. And another point I would like to highlight is that AI may affect hiring of specialists. In my company, since we introduced AI, we haven't sacked any single person, but we trained all of them. We used individual programs. And as I said, productivity has improved by 70%, but their salaries increased by 15–20%. And this gives us another competitive edge. And AI doesn't change the number of people, and it helps to find some new skills for them, and whatever risks and pressure we may see in the world and all those sanctions and so on. Yes, we know that the market is fragmented now, but high productivity ensures that we have the same profitability we had several years ago. We do not only introduce AI into our everyday work, but we also use AR and VR. And there's several insights I would like to share with you. As for AI, somehow we hear a lot about AI, but not about augmented reality or virtual reality any longer. Yes, this is absolutely correct. Recently, I heard a phrase, I heard it about a year ago. One person said that people underestimate Actually, they overestimate the depth of introduction of solutions and they underestimate the scale. And several years later, I'm absolutely sure, and I can say that they underestimated both the depth of introduction and the scale. What I have been observing in the past 3 years, and all this boom with AR and VR, it has changed the whole business landscape. And we now develop VR games. And we are the world leader. It is a team of VR games. We are a leader in the world, and we analyzed all VR technologies available in the world. And after we reached that leading position, we decided to join the education market, and it is much wider. And here we made a mistake. So the mistake was I thought that VR technology will enable to create educational programs of the future, that they will exclude people from educational processes, but it is not so. It took us 2 years to develop the VR platform for education, but then we closed that project because when you put on this VR goggle helmet, you are in the VR space and you don't see any people around you. But educational process, it is a collective thing. At school, you are together with your classmates, with your group mates. So the educational process is always a collective one. And this is how you accumulate knowledge and skills. And VR is not appropriate for this. And now we have a new platform, Miroznaika, and it is one of the first platforms in the world that ensures training programs to be accompanied by a virtual reality. The giant companies already announced that VR is just a transition to AR, and the augmented reality will be of a larger scale and it will be widely used in practice. So, but VR ensures deep involvement for people in entertainment. But I'm speaking about everyday use. For example, some prompts. I'm using papers now, but in a couple of years, I will be using goggles and or spectacles, so you won't see that, but I will be reading it in those special lenses. And this platform, like World Nova, it is called. Yeah, so there's a whole educational process. Okay, there's a virtual desk and different subjects like geography or chemistry, and we use gamification, and we also teach them life skills and how to behave in different difficult situations. So, and this is the only technology, AR technology, it will help to deal with the shortage of teachers. Teachers and people who can pass on their knowledge and skills. Can you imagine that you will be able to work with the best teacher? So you see this teacher in front of you. And this can be also done collectively, because augmented reality enables us to see what is around us. And there are no joysticks. Joysticks and those helmets, this is what we need for utilization of VR technology. But augmented reality means that you are free to use your hands and you can get a good command of these new knowledge and skills. We test all these startup ideas, and this is my third company. And our second insight I can share with you is to understand that the future of education belongs to AR technology. It took me 2 years to understand it, and now I can be absolutely honest to talk about it. This is how it will be done in the future. And what do we lack in the world? And what we introduce 5G technologies in Russia. And connection in new technology is extremely important. So the speed of passing on information is extremely important. And even my small technological startups, I need 5G everywhere. Then it will be possible to open up not only private schools and virtual classes, but it will be possible to create mega cities or even universes where people from all over the world can get together, and these are called metaverse. We can speak about a metaverse, but these will be online universities using cloud technology, and for that we need 5G. Right now we use 5G with modern routers, and it is inside classrooms. But if this 5G is available absolutely everywhere, then we will be able to use the whole potential and put into practice all our ambitions. And this is my goal, to ensure this education is available to everywhere. And as I said, this platform is called Mira Znaika. Mira is the name of my daughter, and Znaika is a person, know-it-all person from a children's book. And I conclude my speech and pitch. Today I was listening to all the speakers, and I was writing down some information and phrases. And I believe the major lesson you can take with you, the main message, is that now, at the time of this technological transformation, we need to develop in our countries and cities, we need to develop sovereignty and independence of our own business. We need to develop solutions, or we need to become strategic partners of those who develop those solutions, because only this sovereignty will help us to preserve the best people and best technologies. And it is better to be at the head of this race rather than to catch up and copy others. And when I was listening to Michele, I wrote down his phrase. He was speaking about the human-centric approach, that there should be always a human touch in all the technologies. And I believe this is the key point about it all. And the phrase I wrote down, and I will finish with it, a rhetoric question. The Industrial Revolution made humans robots, but AI will liberate the people. And the major question is, what will people do with this freedom? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sergey. That was the vision of an actual businessman. That is his outlook for the topic of our today's discussion. Myself, being a representative of the academia, I'd like to emphasize the following observation. The dilemma of artificial intelligence and human intelligence is somewhat artificial per se. The members of the academia always claim that the hypothesis of humans being fully substituted by robots is fully artificial. And what you're saying right now is actually giving us optimism in terms of bringing together the vision of the academia and the business. You clearly highlighted that implementation of AI does not reduce the amount of jobs, but on the contrary, help the labor force ramp up their revenue. And I guess this is exactly the state of affairs that we should aim for in our business and our recommendations in economic policy measures. And certainly we need to make sure that we align digital technologies with our objectives to make our lives better and richer. Dear colleagues, we have exhausted the time allocated to our session. Taking into account the fact that we started later, we have been able to stay in time allocated to us by the organizer. I'm genuinely grateful to all the speakers for staying in time complying with the time limit allocated. And I'm also very grateful to the audience who hopefully enjoyed our session. Thank you very much today for your attention today.